What's up everyone, and welcome back to another What If video. This What If was one of the first ones on my channel, and now it's nearing its end. Well, at least a temporary end. It should be pretty fun to cover. On the last part, we saw what happened in the future Trunks arc, where instead of Goku Black, we got Vegeta Black. And actually, it ended up a lot better for Trunks this time, since his timeline didn't get erased. The Mafuba actually worked on Zamasu, so he got sealed, which left Vegeta Black alone, having to face everyone. And while he was pretty strong in his new Super Saiyan Rose form, it wasn't that much of a match for all the other fighters together. And with that arc over, we now can get into the Tournament of Power, where the team is actually pretty different this time. Let's get into it. So last time I left off with a poll saying if Android 17 and 18 would be on the team, or if Goten and Trunks would be on, and a large majority of you voted for Goten and Trunks to be on the team. See, the androids are alive and everyone did consider recruiting them, but they're not really too keen on the idea. They don't know the androids like they do in the normal timeline. They may be good or at least neutral by now, but no one knows for sure and they don't really want to recruit them anyways. They feel Goten and Trunks are a good pick. And since Piccolo doesn't really need to spend time training Gohan, since Gohan doesn't need to be caught up, he could spend time actually training Goten and Trunks and get them a little more disciplined. And I will say here now, Goten and Trunks actually do have Super Saiyan 2. I never really understood why they didn't get it in canon, especially considering how easily they got Super Saiyan. But I guess it's just the results of them being pushed to the side and forgotten. But they won't be forgotten in this What If. They're going to be important here. And since Gohan has been training a little bit more in this timeline, of course he's going to be training with his brother occasionally, same with Trunks. So in those times that Gohan does train, sometimes Goten joined, and he actually did get a little bit stronger. He hasn't really kept up with his training too much, but it's enough for him to actually unlock Super Saiyan 2 at this point, same with Trunks. And even if they've been slacking off a bit, Piccolo has some time to whip them into shape before the tournament, and he does just that. And with that pre-tournament stuff done, we can get into the actual tournament itself. And well, Universe 7 has a pretty good shot this time. Not that they didn't in canon, but here, they got some good chances. 7 of the team members are the same, except 17, 18, and Frieza are replaced with Goten, Trunks, and Yamcha. Sure, they did lose Frieza and 17 who were really strong fighters, but consider what they gained here. Tien, Krillin, and Yamcha are all way stronger in this scenario, since they've done a lot more training and they have access to Kaioken. Plus, Vegeta and Gohan are noticeably stronger too, so overall, the odds are kinda in their favor. And now, the fighting itself begins. One thing that I want to start off by saying is that the Universe 6 Saiyans don't actually have Super Saiyan this time around, because if you remember back a few parts ago, Gohan was the one to face Kaba in the Universe 6 vs 7 tournament, and that resulted in Kaba not learning how to go Super Saiyan. And by extension, that means Caulifla and Kale don't have it either. Plus, Kaba doesn't really have his bond with Vegeta like before, because he never really had any interaction with him. So Vegeta actually won't be there to help him out a bit this time. Universe 6 is going to have a tough time here. One of the first changes that I'll say happens in the tournament is that Frost isn't actually able to knock out Krillin. Krillin has a much easier time facing who he's up against, even if he's not with 18 here, because he has Kaioken now and is stronger in general. He still does receive a sneak attack from Frost, but it doesn't do anything. Interestingly enough, Gohan in the scenario got instant transmission a while back, and he decides to use it to its full potential. See, that's another thing, I wonder why Goku didn't use it as much in the tournament. Anyways, Gohan's quick to pick up on Krillin being knocked out, and just as he goes over the edge, Gohan teleports over to him and then teleports Krillin and himself back to where Piccolo is. Since no one could fly, this technique is really handy here in the tournament, as both Goku and Gohan realize how stupidly overpowered it would be to use. Gohan then teleports back to Frost and finishes the job. So there goes one of Universe 6's strongest fighters. Following this, not too much of interest happens. Roshi actually gets to stay in longer since he doesn't have to deal with Frost, and as for Caulifla and Kale, well, they don't really stand much of a chance without Super Saiyan. Sure, they're strong enough without it, but having it is a huge help, especially for Kale who wasn't really that into fighting before. Sadly for them, this means that Caulifla gets knocked out, with Kale not far behind. Following this, we have the same Spirit Bomb deal with Jiren and Goku, and this actually results in pretty much the same deal. Jiren pushes the Spirit Bomb back, Goku falls in, he unlocks Ultra Instinct Omen, and faces off with Jiren briefly, but it doesn't result in much in the end. Out of energy, Vegeta lends some to Goku, and then goes off to face Jiren on his own, wanting to maintain his advantage over Goku in terms of power. This Ultra Instinct thing that he just got gave him a huge boost above Vegeta, and Vegeta wonders if he can accomplish the same thing. Fighters are getting picked off left and right, mainly from other universes, but eventually Universe 7 sees their first losses. Roshi stayed in a little bit longer, but he does still proceed to get knocked out later on. He can't keep up as well as the other humans and other fighters on his team. And even though Gohan was able to bail out Krillin once, that was just luck on Krillin's part since Gohan was close enough to see and sense what was happening. But besides Roshi, he's one of the weaker members on the team even with Kaioken, since Yamcha and Tien were much more consistent with their training in this scenario, as well as having higher levels of Kaioken, and having practiced it more. This results in Krillin eventually getting knocked off too. Speaking of Yamcha and Tien, they stick really close to each other for the tournament, since they have great synergy in terms of fighting. If you remember back a few parts ago, even in the Cell and Buu sagas, they were training together non-stop, and had some really great gains in power. Add Kaioken on top of that, and they're a pretty deadly force. Sticking together makes it a lot safer and easier for them to take on enemies. And even though they do have Kaioken, it's not like they could just spam it because of how draining it is on their energy, so they do try to use it as efficiently as possible. And this strategy that they have actually works out pretty well. They survive a lot longer than what you'd expect for Tien and Yamcha, especially with all the different techniques each of them can use. As for Universe 6, well, like I said, it's not really going too well for them. They already lost a lot of their strong fighters, and the only ones they have remaining are Hit, Kaba, the Namekians, and Dr. Rhoda. Dr. Rhoda being the strongest in the tournament right now. Jokes aside, this isn't really that good of a scenario for them. Hit is a lot more careful, but he does try to face Jiren on his own, and that results in him getting knocked out. And without him, Universe 6 is pretty much doomed. Okay, I was joking about Dr. Rhoda, he wouldn't even be around at this point, but Kaba would still be around, since even without Super Saiyan, he is a decent fighter, but that's only going to go so far. In his last stand, through sheer determination and willpower, with the hope of his whole universe resting on his shoulders, Kaba breaks past his limits and unlocks something that he didn't even know was possible. He turns Super Saiyan for the first time. He saw this form before from the people from Universe 7, but he didn't know it was possible for him to do it too, especially at his level. Sadly though, it's not really enough for him. It's kinda tragic when you think about it. In the last moments of his universe, he's able to get this new power, thinking maybe it'll help him, and temporarily it does, but it doesn't go too far in terms of the tournament overall. This leads to Universe 6's early elimination, after the Namekians are taken out by Gohan and Piccolo. Universe 2 is also eliminated around the same time, and then when up against Universe 4's stealth fighters, Tien and Yamcha do get taken out too, but then that results in Universe 4 getting eliminated. Following this, Aniraza appears like normal, and he gets eliminated pretty easily. They don't have 17 who jumps into the beam and punches him right in the head, but the power of everyone combined should be enough to actually take him out. Speaking of that, I haven't really covered Goten and Trunks too much yet, and that's mainly because they've been very careful about their moves. Piccolo whipped them into shape and got them a lot more disciplined. And for the most part, they're either sticking with Piccolo or with Gohan, who are watching them to make sure they don't mess up. In case they need to be bailed out, Gohan or Piccolo will be right there to help. And this strategy is actually pretty good and works out, because Dispo then tries to attack Goten and Trunks, which would be really bad for them since they wouldn't be able to take him on by themselves. However, Gohan and Piccolo are there to assist them, and with Gohan's power boost in this scenario, he alone would be enough to take out Dispo. So add Piccolo and a stronger Goten and Trunks into the equation, and it's not really a contest. Dispo still does get eliminated. Universe 7 has a lot of fighters left compared to Universe 11, who now only has Jiren and Toppo, with every other universe being eliminated at this point. Jiren's pretty much solo, as Goku and Vegeta are facing him, and Piccolo, Gohan, and even Goten and Trunks try to face up against Toppo. Again, I'd even assume that Gohan here alone would be enough to take on Toppo. It wouldn't really be too much of a stretch here to say that, considering how much more training he's gotten. And Vegeta was able to do it alone even when he transformed into his God of Destruction mode, which Toppo doesn't do here because he's not provoked by Frieza. Goten and Trunks are pretty much there to watch and learn, but they do help out and assist. They really just need to stick close by because if they end up getting knocked out somehow, then Gohan's going to be there to save them with instant transmission. Toppo does consider abandoning his values and becoming his God of Destruction mode, but he decides against it, which ultimately leads to him being defeated. So now, it's pretty much the remaining fighters Universe 7 versus Jiren, and they may have strength in numbers, but Jiren has more strength than them all collectively at this point. Goten and Trunks can't even fuse to help because they never learned fusion in this scenario, and even if they did, it wouldn't be too much of a help. But they're still motivated and want to help out anyways, as are everyone else on the team. Vegeta asks Goku if he could do that Ultra Instinct thing again, but he can't do it at will. He doesn't know how he unlocked it, or how Vegeta could do it himself. And it would be crazy to do anything to risk Vegeta's life in order to try and unlock it, because Vegeta's still the strongest team member, and they can't afford to lose him. I mean, even if he weren't the strongest, that would be kinda stupid to do, even though Vegeta does consider doing it. They don't really know anything else to do in terms of power, but technique could be very helpful here. they're all able to come up with a plan. Since the way to win is just having to push them off the ring, why don't they just do that? I mean, they've already tried breaking the ground beneath him, but Jiren's smarter than that. They'll need to think outside the box. And Gohan does just that. The same technique that he's been using to try and help people on his team, instant transmission, can be used to defeat Jiren, although it would require sacrifice. The plan is to have someone jump off the ring, as far off as they can into the air, just high enough so that they don't get eliminated right away and have some time while they're falling. While that person is in the air, Goku or Gohan can teleport Jiren over to them, as they all fall into the void. It is risky because if it doesn't work, then they'll be down by 2 fighters. But the risk seems kind of worth it, and Jiren doesn't know about this plan, unlike the groundbreaking thing. He hasn't seen Goku use instant transmission, so he won't really expect this to happen. Plus, even if he did see Goku use it, he doesn't know that Gohan has this technique either. With Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Goten, and Trunks all creating a distraction, Piccolo sprints towards the edge of the ring, leaping high in the air as he goes off the edge. Jiren doesn't even notice this because he has 5 other people he's focusing on in front of him, which is good because he took the bait. Piccolo yells out to Gohan, who then places a hand on Jiren where he doesn't expect it. Placing his fingers on his forehead, he teleports both him and Jiren towards Piccolo, who's currently falling out of the ring right now. To ensure they fall, Piccolo and Gohan both grab onto Jiren and tackle him, trying to pivot him towards the void. Jiren is eventually able to break free from their grasp, and he's about to fire a blast to launch him back into the ring, but it's too late. Before he can even fire it off, he, Gohan, and Piccolo all fall into the void and are eliminated. Goku never gets to go into Ultra Instinct again, Vegeta doesn't get his Blue Evolution form, and Universe 7 has 4 fighters left this time instead of 1. In terms of the MVP, Goku's pretty much a clear choice here. Goten and Trunks did decently well during the first half, but once things started ramping up, it came down to the wire and there was only strong fighters left like Toppo, Jiren, and Dispo, they couldn't really do much to help, but they were there to motivate everyone, and still never gave up. But they wouldn't really be considered to be the MVPs. Vegeta also could be considered, but in a situation like this I feel like Goku would get the nomination. But it doesn't matter too much either way because the universes are still revived from the Wish, just as Zeno foresaw and wanted to happen. And with that, the Tournament of Power is concluded and Universe 7 is victorious, returning back to their home. Well, what now? So naturally following this would be the Broly movie, but Frieza's not alive, so he's not going to be recruiting anyone, meaning Broly and Paragus will probably remain on planet Vampa for the time being, if they even get discovered at all. Maybe the Frieza Force would be out scouting planets, but considering it's been basically disbanded and Frieza's not back, I'm pretty doubtful about it happening. I'm gonna call this a temporary finale for now. I'll wait and see how the Mora arc plans out before I continue this one, because with how the Mora arc is going now, I'm not really sure it'll go too different even with the events in this scenario, so I want to wait for it to play out entirely before I cover that. There's some differences here and there, but overall right now, I don't see too much being different. We'll have to wait and see. And that's why we're in this part and this What If for now. So what did you guys think about this part and What If as a whole? And if continued, what do you think will happen next? Leave your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below, and I'll be sure to check them out. As always, if you liked the video, be sure to drop a like. And if you haven't already, why not subscribe? As well as hitting the bell icon to get notified about any future videos I post on my channel, including future parts of this What If or other videos like it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.